Yes, it's that time again, and it's time for another round of UFR versus TTT in the 3rd and 4th place finals of the King of the Sea 3 Cup. The story so far, UFR, as you saw in the previous video, won Game 1, TTT then brought it back with Game 2 as a victory and Game 3 as a victory, so it is currently 2-1 to TTT. And that means that if TTT win this one, then they are effectively the 3rd place finalists, or the 3rd place winners, so to speak, of this cup. So UFR really have it all to play for, and they have to try and drag it back. I'm going to have a really quick blast through the lineups because I think they're actually quite interesting this time. We have UFR on the left, who have 2 Bensons, pretty standard, 2 KotS3s, fairly standard, an Aggro, which is a new one in this tournament to a certain degree. Obviously they appear here and there, but an Aggro instead of a Tupolev, so they don't have any radar. And then we have 2 German battleships. We have a Bismarck and a Tirpitz, and then a North Carolina and a Shikaku. Now, what makes this interesting is the Bismarck and the Tirpitz are famously not particularly great at shooting long range, and the guns aren't as punchy as a lot of the other nations. However, they're very, very good at being aggressive with those amazing secondaries, torpedoes and hydro. They're pretty good. Going over to TTT, we have the double Benson thing going on, the double KotS3. We have a New Orleans. TTT, I think, is the only major team that uses this. So Taiwan is New Orleans representing the United States. We have 2 Amagis and an Alabama. So between the KotS3s and me, Premier Halls unite. Let's represent. And then we have a Shikaku as well. Let's get straight into the battle then. So we are on board with Saharil Paga. Oh god, that pronunciation there. I apologise in advance. UFR, of course, being French. So Saharil Paga, I'm going to go with, or Saharil Paga. Now, he is driving his Aggro, so we haven't seen many of these in the tournament so far. It's predominantly Russian cruisers, it would seem, and you guys have the privilege of watching this time from UFR's perspective. Now, I've managed to secure these replays because what actually happened in the tournament is my rage was so complete that I neglected to get many of the replays. TTT initially, upon the end of this game, said, "We will never speak of this again," and we all sort of agreed. I have the luxury of making these videos and decided, well, it's all well and good showing TTT kicking ass, and once in a while that happens. I don't always show that, as you guys will know. Occasionally I do actually show us getting our ass kicked. This is possibly the greatest ass kicking we ever took in a major tournament like this one. To say it was like kicking puppies for UFR is probably an understatement. Now what UFR have done here is, you can see on the minimap, they are heading west hard for A, but so is TTT. And you'd think, oh, they're probably quite even, it's going to be a mass brawl and it'll all work out some way in the end, right? Wrong. So UFR, they have a Benson in the B cap, already capping, and they have one of their battleships on the way there as well. Now you can see here with the Aggro, you have the Aggro and the Tirpitz pushing into A. Now what do the Aggro and the Tirpitz have that most of our ships don't? They have torpedoes. Now the KotS3s of course do have torpedoes, as do the Bensons. However, the Tirpitz can take a lot of hits and has torpedoes. Me in the Alabama and M4 in the Amagi. I think we have 2 Amagis. I can't even remember, even though I did the lineups like 2 minutes ago. We don't have any torpedoes, so we can't just suddenly pop torpedoes off if stuff gets close. And on top of that, the Bismarck and Tirpitz are famous for their secondaries. So almost everyone in major league teams that plays in either a Bismarck or a Tirpitz will have full secondary spec. They have all the range modules, they have all the accuracy modules for it, they'll have all the captain skills for it, so effectively you're firing at 10 kilometers with your secondary guns and you are scoring hits. And I've had battles in my Tirpitz and Bismarck where I've scored 3 fires on people in 30 seconds with my secondaries, and that is while I'm engaging them with the primary armament, so I'm doing double damage for free, basically. And if you keep setting them on fire, of course, and they use their damage repair consumable, then you're going to just set them on fire again. So having those secondaries pounding at you is not great, while you're also being fired at by the 15-inch main armament. So, Tora have come down to the A cap. UFR are well and truly into the B cap, and they're also entering the C cap. Tora actually captured the A cap, so we think, you know, we'll just smoke up here. We have no problems. We're being pretty passive, like we tend to be lately. This seems to be a trend, and you know, we think we got this. We're pretty heavy here, but if you look on the mini-map, we have two Bensons coming in from two angles. We have the Aggro here. We have both battleships again from two angles. Their team has well and truly surrounded us on this cap, and at the moment we don't even know it. Right now, you can see TTT had us 89 on the center of the screen there. I am oblivious to what is in front of me, and it's not because our carrier was doing wrong, although their carrier is very strong here in this position, so he's shooting down as many planes as he can. It's not because our radar cruisers were doing wrong. It's not because anyone has screwed up. It is purely because UFR have outplayed us so hard that it's already pretty much game over. Now, it's not as simple as calling it as, oh, it's definitely game over. You see me in the screen there taking a load of torpedo hits, but it is as simple as, once you're in this position, we are so on the back foot, and we don't even know it yet. So we're on board here with Verdandi, who is Hero Benson. He pops off some random torpedoes there in the gap. Little do we know that they're going to be probably the greatest torpedoes in the tournament, because it doesn't end well for me here. So UFR have well and truly capped B. They're keeping us out of C, although they've divided our team, and they've got the A caps surrounded. And there we go, 5 torpedo hits, 2 kills, 7 torpedo hits, and that is me and the KotS3 Durin dead. Gone. Finito. That's 2 of our major capital ships out of the game in the first just over 5 minutes because of one Benson. And because of their placement. And it's hats off to UFR here. If they want to go aggressive, they go aggressive. And once they do this, they seem to have it all together, because apparently they did exactly the same to Omni the week previous. Once they do this and they go super hard, you can't do anything about it. If you haven't realised, then it's all over. What we should have done is withdrawn as quickly as possible when we saw them coming this hard to the A cap with everything. Both destroyers, both battleships. I think the problem was we didn't know they were coming with everything. I didn't even spot Verdandi. Then again, I had bigger fish to fry right in front of me. And unfortunately, that's me. UFR actually lose one of their battleships they lose their turrets to our Benson as he's pushing there. But look at it, it's already too late. Our cruisers are nearly dead. The KotS3 here is pretty well flanked, and he's dead now because Citadel. And it's all over. Like, TTT have already lost 3 major ships, including both KotS3s, and we're in full retreat while UFR casually just roll through the A cap. They already have the B cap, and the rest of our forces are split off in C where they can't do anything. Now, M4 is going to do his usual, and he's going to absolutely hero this by himself. He's going to try and stomp Arumata here as he moves through in his Bismarck. The Amagi these days is pretty troll when it comes to getting shot at. If you're slightly angled in it, from what I've seen, the vast majority of rounds will bounce, which is what just happened there. Now M4 gave Arumata a massive salvo as he was coming into the smoke here, and you can see how pretty much unangled M4 is. But the Amagi just likes to troll. He gets 2 penetrations though, he gets 10,000 damage, but in some other battleships you'd get a lot more than that with that kind of broadside showing. M4 though, showing his absolute skill, fighting as many people as he can while, well, he's in a losing battle here. He's getting shot at by multiple vessels from multiple directions because, again, we're just surrounded pretty much. Our Benson's trying to tuck himself into the corner and get away, and M4's making a run for the border because that's all he can do. He has to run this way because if he ran east he would just get penetrated like that. So you can see he's showing broadside to that North Carolina there, but he doesn't really have a choice. And if he ran, well, if he ran straight at them, he'd be dead. Well, very, very quickly indeed, with all the torpedoes that are in this area, or all the torpedo boats. And this one is a really good example of a game that you almost can call a pretty sure thing within, well, we've not even had half the time yet, and it's looking pretty dire for TTT. Bismarck there firing HE, happens to have it loaded for the Amagi being angled there, and fires it at the Benson. The Benson's in a close range gun duel with the enemy Benson, but the enemy Benson has the Otago on side. So when I say the enemy, I mean UFR, because I'm TTT. So the TTT Benson gets slammed, and now TTT has lost one of their 2 destroyers, destroyers being very precious in this game. And I don't think we're going to draw it back. At this point in the tournament then, TTT were up, I believe, 2-1. TTT lost the first game, UFR, with the game we watched last time. TTT then won the next 2 fairly convincingly. I mean, it wasn't whitewashes by any stretch. They were pretty close games, but TTT won them pretty convincingly. And like I said, I wasn't going to show this game because it's embarrassing as all hell. But it's only fair. I showed UFR beating us by the slightest of margins, and later I'm going to show TTT beating UFR. So I figured, well, they did play bloody well, and they gave us an absolute kicking. So I'm going to show it. So you can see here, UFR doing what can happen when a team is super aggressive from the off, straight from the off. They didn't even hold back, they just went straight into the ACAP. They knew they already had it because of the ship composition we had, and they just rode straight in. Now the ship composition thing, the way this game works is both teams have to submit their lineup before the battle, and what this does is, for the adjudicators, it proves that you're not trying to change your ships based on what the enemy has. So once you've picked your lineup, that's your lineup. You don't see the enemy lineup until you get into the battle. So when we saw a Bismarck and a Tirpitz entering the battle, we thought, that's interesting, it's a very push-heavy setup UFR have there. The typical British reaction being, well, they're French, why would they do that? No, that's not fair. But yeah, very push-heavy setup. We saw it coming, and we thought, nah, it'll be alright, we'll go heavy on the ACAP, and they won't stand a chance. What can they possibly send that will crush us? Oh wait, that'll be everything that's pushing. So they sent the Otago, the Bismarck, the Tirpitz, both Bensons, and you saw how quickly they just kicked us there. The KotS3 sinks our New Orleans there, so that's Tower Neck going down. I'm already gone. Most of our capital ships are now gone. I believe we just have the 2 Amagis left. And that's it. Against basically the entire UFR. They've lost 1 ship, but let's be honest, it wasn't that embarrassing. They lost 1 Tirpitz as it pushed in unbelievably close, and he got torpedoed by a destroyer. But, you know, hats off to UFR, they really embarrassed TTT here. And a lot of people might wonder, why would a battleship fire HE in competitive? It's all well and good firing our piercing if they're presenting broadside to you, or if you can over-penetrate. So a great example being a Yamato can almost over-penetrate everything through the front. Certainly in North Carolina, if you're in a Yamato you can fire and your rounds will penetrate straight through the front of his vessel, and you can even score citadels. But in competitive, you got to be clever. If a target is running directly away or directly towards you, you want to set him on fire, because then he's going to stay on fire. Especially battleships, we tend not to repair single fires, like Arumata is demonstrating perfectly for me here. You want to leave fires going to a certain degree. Obviously if you get a double or a triple, then you've got to put it out, but then that just leaves you open for them to set you on fire again. And another demonstration here, you can see Arumata is already engaging with the secondaries and the primary armament. He's getting plenty of hits. The Amagi there hasn't even fired his secondaries yet. his secondaries just aren't good enough to be firing back at this Bismarck, which is spamming him with the secondaries and with the primaries, so you got all that extra free help from your secondary gunners, and only now is the Amagi firing back at just, I think it's 5k. So you can see that the sheer havoc that the secondaries can wreak. And M4 there putting in some good rounds at the last minute. Arumata heading in, and he's gonna turn in and try and get all his guns on target to kill M4 before he can reach it. 6,000 damage on the last salvo there. But M4 does get the last laugh because M4 has waited it out for Arumata to give him a bit of broadside, and he deletes him through the bows there, knocking out his gun turrets on the way through. M4 though left on such low health, there's nothing you can really do. He crashes into Arumata's corpse. I believe he was probably going to ram him anyway. The rounds are still coming in from the destroyer and the smoke there, and there's nothing M4 can do about it, and he dies. And so you see UFR only lost 2 vessels, both battleships, but they're both push battleships, that's what they're for. And TTT is left with just 1 times carrier, while UFR congratulate themselves sailing around openly, and there's nothing to contest them. I'm going to say it early because there's only 20 points to tick over. Well done to UFR for this battle. By the time I was dead in the first couple of minutes, I didn't even know what had hit me. They came in so fast and so hard, they just obliterated us for free. And there we have it. A lovely picture of the salt-infested land in which I now live. Once again, after watching the video, it just brings it all screaming back. So I'm going to live in the white powdery stuff for a little while. Not that type, guys. Come on. In the salt. And just hang here with the rest of TTT, where we will live for a little while, I think. Great game to play. Really great to watch again. You can see the competitive doesn't have to be boring and stale. It can actually be unbelievably aggressive from one side or the other, or indeed both, and the results do come in, so it does work out sometimes. I've been Hadders. I really hope you enjoyed. If you think I can improve anything again, spam the comments and let me know what you think I could change, and I will see you all soon.